Stop presenting and start recording, I believe. Um,
I think I have
It's
started
not
now.
good. Okay, someone
so
has anyway.
sounds good. Thank you. So access code and password, I guess now it is recorded. So that's good for you. We'll use the CSA model. Keep an eye on that. If we need to change our, if the deadlines and so on, it will be done in Moodle because Moodle basically tells us how late you are in submitting. Uh, so the discussion platform we are anyways using MS Teams. And if you want to talk to us, send a private message or a mail to both the instructor. Because if you are just asking me, I will possibly ask you just forward this mail to the other instructor also that we can discuss, and both of us are in the loop. Okay, this is just general courtesy. But remember to send a private message or an email to both the instructors if you want to talk to us specifically. Now, these are simple things. I already asked you to create a group of 2. You already did that. So we'll ultimately have groups of 2 or 3. Why 3? Because it might be that some groups, because we cannot have 1-person group, some groups might have more than 1 people, but we'll assign them. Now, we'll group the ungrouped folks left, which I have checked half an hour back. There are around 10 people who are not in any group. We identified them, and we'll group the ungrouped ones after 5 p.m. today. It will have to be a random assignment, but we'll do it, and hopefully that should work for you. Um, and we would upload. So we already put it in the Google Sheet. The final one, the final group will be uploaded in MS Teams, and then you should check out your group mates because there are some problems that can happen. You understand, right? While copy pasting and doing all these things. Now, one important thing is that even though you have a group, we pretty strongly expect all members of the group to contribute equally, and we'll get that feedback from your grader, from the other people, and from ourselves, our assessment also. And individual members of a single group can have very different marks based on what if they cannot really answer some questions, or even the grader basically thinks that only one of you ultimately did the work. So definitely we will consider that feedback also, because our goal is to teach you and evaluate how much you learned, not whether you have a good group mate. So be sure to contribute equally and know in and out of whatever solutions that you guys are coming up with. And now you will generally have for each assignment some dedicated time to solve, like 1, 2, or 3 weeks, or it might be 10 days. You should utilize of what will happen in this lab. Essentially, we will upload the assignments, and then you can use the lab time, and then we'll have a lecture, a small lecture, small discussion as we're having today to actually make you familiarize with the assignment, and then you can start taking baby steps and get help from TS if necessary. Now, these submissions, these assignments will have hard deadlines, and another use of this lab time is to get your assignments checked by the graders. Who will be your graders? For each assignment, it will change, and we will announce it in the MS Teams. Note that late submissions cannot be accepted, because that will be unfair to the people. Most, that based on my experience, I'm teaching this for for a few years now, I would say, and my experience is that 90% of you would actually do the submission in due time, and 5% will not be late at all, like within the totally, even if close to a deadline, be like within the deadline. The rest 5% we cannot be, cannot give you extra advantage. So late submissions cannot be accepted. Just to be fair to everyone, remember that. Now, in the process of doing your assignments within due time in Linux via Moodle and all these things, some of you might be tempted to copy. please do not copy. We would be checking whether you copied programmatically, and if we find that you copied, meaning that you copied for someone else or someone copied from others, like two copies are exactly similar, or you both copied from the same source, we would give you either 0, or you can have heavier penalty like the registration and reporting to the Senate. And that will happen to all the groups whose submissions are found to be copied. The reason is simple. The goal of this course is to teach you ways, teach you how to create and use one of the most powerful systems you have access to, the operating system. We're not going to teach you how to copy and how to Google. And we do understand you might be tempted to copy. However, why do you need to copy when you can have help actually teach you about how to do the assignment? Not give you the solutions, mind, but at least give you hint and bits and pieces of advice and keep you on the right track. That is more fun than just copying mindlessly, right? So how are you going to have help? Essentially, this time we are introducing mentors. Your mentor will not be your grader. What is a mentor? It's basically one of the TAs that will be assigned to your group. Those same mentor will not be your grader. Someone else will grade you. So you don't have any obligation to the mentor to please them, or basically, and the mentors also don't have any obligation to please you. And mentors will not code for you. That's obvious. So what would the mentors do? They will help you with your questions. You started, you did not even understand the meaning of a term. Go ask your mentor. You don't know how to actually do this. Go ask your mentor. But the mentors might ask you to copy Google first with like give you bits and pieces of pointers. Then you Google and possibly you will get help. Or the mentor will tell like, you need to know that what is this trick that you don't know. So it's a little bit of mentors will be a little bit of personal tutors and a bit of personal oracle, meaning someone who can answer your queries. Those are called oracles. So we do hope that this mentorship, at least what we are starting now, would help you. And of course, both of us, Saptarshi and me, are there to help you in some questions that requires more intervention, or something that the mentors are not sure about, and we need to talk among ourselves to give you an educated answer. We are always there to help, and even now and so on. However, we thought the mentors might be give you personalized help and teach you like work as a tutor, so that it becomes more fun and informative for you. Okay, so before we go to the assignments and so on, these are the logistics. We'll tell you that who your mentors are once the groups are fixed by today, right? Your graders will be announced later, before the grading, of course. But that's it for the logistics. You go to Moodle, you see the assignment, you do some coding now, like during the lab, do the rest of the coding in your home. But either of the time, you will have your mentors to ask questions over MS Teams or whatever you talk to your mentor to, whatever, like over mail or MS Teams. And we do hope that that would help you. Any questions that you have, please ask. And then we'll move to the assignment part. Okay, sounds good. So there are two types of assignments that we are going to do in this lab. Okay, the first one is the usage, learning the usage of OS provided functionalities. What do we mean by functionalities? We'll teach you, and we'll tell that in the assignment itself. But the point is that someone already built an OS for you, be it Mac, be it Linux, be it Windows. And as Satoshi told very aptly, if you really want to be a Formula One car driver, you need to know your car in and out. So this is somewhat like whether the test or to teach you how to use the best features of your car. that is already provided to you, and you would learn that you haven't used the most powerful of its capabilities yet. That's the first type of assignment. The second type of assignment is building bits and pieces of small OSs that will give you a, like, you will basically going to open the hood, open the box and see that how the OSs are being built today. That should give you some working knowledge about how the under the hood a card, or basically in this case operating system, will actually work. We'll start with the type 1 of assignment, teaching you how to get the best out of the operating systems that you have access to. Now, I would wait for some time. So if you have any questions, ask now, and then we'll go to the assignment 1, which is the first assignment. Okay, if you don't have any questions yet, let's go to the assignment. Okay. This is your first assignment for those of you who went to Moodle and registered there for this course. You'd see the assignment already. Okay, today the assignment is given and the deadline is after 10 days. And this assignment is all about familiarization with shell scripting and shell commands. We tried that. I'll come in a moment. What is shell scripting? Some of you already know, others who don't would know in a Ziphy. But the point is that we already put some instruction about what is shell and what do you expect and what are the gradings and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to bore you by reading from this PDF. I know that all of you can read. What I'm going to do is to actually tell you what I understood as shell scripts, and then I would hand it over to Shivam, who would show you some cool tricks with shell and give you a feel for things in shell which will help you. So what is shell? If you go to, so if you actually look into your soft, yeah, question. All right. So if you look into your softwares in your Linux or your Mac distribution, in Windows actually also, then you would actually see there is this shell which often look like a television like this. You might already have seen it. You already used it in your PDS lab for compiling and running stuff. However, what you might or might not have known, the shell is a powerful tool to give you some give you some access to some software that is provided to you from the OS level itself. I don't know how many of you know about how to see that in Linux, how to see the how to see that which processes are running. Any idea?
HTOP.
Very good. I would say the top, but because you guys already talked about HTOP, that's great. Top is the more basic functionality provided from the OS itself. Okay, it shows that, see, there's like a top, auto mount, DKCM, Python, a lot of processes are running with PID and all these things that we'll learn about. Okay, but top actually tells you exactly how this car is being used, by which processes, what are the softwares which are running. See? Now, on top of top, that's bad English, but any case, couldn't help. The top, you actually have HTOP, which is built on top and give you more information. There's a much better GUI, much better looking things. How to actually see the, how to actually get whether a specific process is running? Do you have any idea? Say, I want to know if Skype is running.
There's a search feature in HTOP, or we could use pxaux and grep.
True. So there is, you can actually, there's in HTOP, you can actually search. Or what I generally use is definitely psaux will give you all these processes. There's a huge number of processes. And then you can actually grep using a bunch of things like grep Skype. I'm sure the Skype is running. So let's see. See, Skype is running so many processes. Let's see WhatsApp. So what I'm doing here, PSOX will give me the list of all processes. But how can I search? So whatever the output of PSOX is, I'm using, this is called a pipe command. See, this is a pipe command. I'm sure that you can see this pipe command. So whatever output of PSOX happens, this will be piped, that's a verb, piped into another software, which is called grep, which is made for searching patterns, searching your, like say, searching the name Skype, grep Skype. It will show you wherever Skype happens. Okay. So this is what you can do using terminal. So let's actually show you a little bit more. You see, say this is a demo. This is I already put here. So you can actually create t1.text, touch t1.text. This comment, these are called comments that will actually create this t1.text in this directory. So say, yeah, t1.text, in the directory this. Come on. Yeah. So say I want to actually create test.txt file. So I'm just creating this and it will be created here. You see? Nice. Now if you want to actually, so I already, so you can actually change the directory to something called figs subdirectory that I created here, and there are 1.png, 2.png, 3.png, and then you can actually do something cool, right? For example, for file in say star.png echo $file do done. Nope. See, so I'm just writing for file in start.png do echo $file done, meaning for file. So I'm just saying, I'm just iterating over everything in a figure, like in the figure directory. I'm just going in and saying that for file in start.png, meaning whatever files are there with the PNG extension, I'm just going to enumerate them and then telling them to just put it in the terminal. So you see there's a for loop here. So essentially you can just do one-liner for loops. You can also say there are 1,000 files in this directory. You can actually change the names of those files by just using this command like file.start.png do rename and the new file name. So essentially shell scripting gives you what I want to actually say. It gives you a bunch of different tools directly right from the operating system for the people who know how to use them, and it will give you a programming language, a Turing complete, fully compatible programming language. And these are extremely useful when you are quickly doing some hacks to do some quick things. Like, for example, your sister just came and told, like, I want to actually make, change the name of this or the whole folder. There are so many folders and everything. I want to actually organize them. Change the name of the folders with when they are created. You can do that in one liner using shell scripting. Much easier and more OS oriented than opening a Python terminal and writing code, or opening a C terminal and writing codes and so on. So this is going to be your first initiation, I would say, in shell scripting. Now, in shell scripting, one thing that happens is you can, and I repeat that there's a very good chance that you can do a lot of things with a lot of comments. So we actually put a few comments here that even it doesn't matter whether you use them or not. I mean, we suggest that you use them, but if you can come up with more exotic comments, sure, go ahead with it. But if you know these comments, right, this is what the combined knowledge, like all these people, the TAs, they actually just went through placement. So they also certified that these are the things that during placement, during your applications during doing anything real worldy, these are the comments, those are most useful often and can actually enable you in doing a plethora of things. So know about these comments. That would help. Using these comments, you can do most of the things that we are going to ask you to do. It's totally 100 marks assignment. And we actually have assignments like, write a shell script for doing prime factorization. What is a shell script? Just like I basically wrote here for file in start.png, do this. You can just save it in file and then you can execute it using the command sh and that file name. So basically you need to upload those sh files so that we can check. So we have assignments on doing prime factorization, doing file manipulations, very useful. I cannot emphasize it enough. And directory handling, also useful. And then we have some assignment of something called curl, environment variables and more that Shivam is going to talk about. We actually have an assignment on creating a frequency distribution from a large file. And finally, we have assignment on creating a CSV file and then doing some pattern matching on them. If you are, sorry, I'm just going to quit. Okay, so if you are going to do these things, then you would actually need a lot of Googling and help about knowing these things. And so we already put the things that you should Google and you should look for. The whole exercise is meant for some of you, it might be easy peasy. For some of you, it might be the first time, but for both of you, we have tried to put in the knowledge. Those are mostly useful in real world and while doing real world system development. So we do hope that you will enjoy it and you will learn a few things. We would assign your mentors by today or latest by tomorrow morning once the grouping is done. But till then, go over this assignment and now over to you, Shivam, I'm just going to stop presenting. And now it is over to you, Shivam, for the rest of the tutorial. He's going to talk to you about some fun and interesting applications of shell scripting so that you have a feel for what you are up to. Shivam, you are muted, I believe.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible now.
Okay, so yeah, thank you sir for the opportunity. Before moving on, I would like to say that this is my first time teaching smart students like you all. So don't consider me as someone like as a teacher teaching you, but consider a friend among you who is just discussing something. And if you feel anything doubt or you have any comments or feedback, they are always welcome. So I'll share my screen now. Just give me a second. Accessibility. I just need to set the teams to use the allow teams to get access to the other screen also. Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
it's
So this is a document which I've prepared and this has references as well as Ashutosh, why are you requesting control? Yeah. So I was saying that this is the first lab assignment introduction, and this is a document which I have prepared, and I will share this document which has all the references as well as the tools that as well as the commands that I will be demoing to you guys. And one more thing that is very important to know is whenever you are using a tool and you get stuck somewhere, read its manual by running the command man tool, which will help you a lot when you are doing complex assignments. Yeah. So first, let's see how we do sorting and file manipulation. So for this, I have prepared a small demo. So I have a file which is demo.txt. And as you can see, I hope this is legible to everyone. Is the terminal readable?
Yeah,
Yes.
It
Yes.
is, but you might want to make it zoom a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, so I have a file demo, which as you can see has names randomly written into the file. So what we can do is we can use the sorting command, which is basically just simple sort command, and send it to a file answer.txt. And as you will see, answer.txt has all the names in sorted order. So this was just a simple example that I wanted to show for what you can do with the terminal with just few lines of code. And this was one way. Another way is you can use the command line argument for sort command, which is -o, and give it the output file. Otherwise, by default, it will print it into the standard output, which is your terminal. String split. So does anyone of you know how we can split strings in Python or any other language?
Do any of you know what is a splitting string mean?
Yeah, does anyone know what is splitting a string based on a delimiter?
yeah. String to will make a string into list by splitting at the past delimiter.
At the
Like if suppose if the delimiter is full stop, then the string will split wherever there is a full stop.
Interesting. Yeah, that's correct. So do you know how to do it in any programming language?
Yeah, yes. In Python, we can. It's simple.
Yeah, you use dot split with the string and you give it the delimiter, right?
Yeah.
However, it's not that simple in Bash. Why? Because Bash does not give you support for libraries, okay? So this is so you can't have things like strings, like a library, API library for strings. So how we can do in this is, let me just show you the code. So I have prepared this file, which already has the same code as the document. And you can see I've given it a string, which is blah at something something and then John at home. Now my aim, the problem is how do I split this string at semicolon? Because as you can see, this is a list of emails and this is a very common problem that you want to split it on a semicolon or a comma or something like that. Now, how will you do it? So first, let's see whether this script does that or not. Yeah, this is a problem which you will face a lot. And I actually had removed it and I put it back. So whenever you write bash scripts, you need to give them the permission to be run as applications, which is chmod plus x. Now it will not give that error. So you can see I got John at home, which is the second element in the array created by splitting the string. So if we go through the code, what we are doing here is, this is an example of replacing and then putting into an array. So basically we provide that in is the string that is the input, semicolon is the character to be replaced, and then as you can see this is a space, and space is what it needs to be replaced with. And after that, when you put brackets, it is an inbuilt function that it will give you as array, splitting the string based on spaces. So whenever you need to split, whether by comma or by full stop, replace it by space and then just use the brackets and you will have the array of the split strings. This is just one way, and you can have multiple ways, which you can find in this reference. Yeah, traversing directory is one of the problems that you will face a lot in your assignments. Like almost all of the problems require you to traverse directories or traverse files. So does any of you know already how do you, just tell me, how do you list files in the directory in shell?
ls.
ls.
Okay, let me ask you an even harder question. Like, let's say I need more details, like full details of the files, okay, with their rewrite permission, their
ls minus l.
everything. ls minus l. Let's try it. I do not remember. Yeah, right. So ls minus l, that's correct. ls minus l basically means ls minus minus long, like give me the long format. And there's a reason why I'm telling you guys all of this, but will come when that part comes on. So that is a very easy, that is the basic way how do you list files. But in your assignment, if you list files by ls, then you will have to use ls in all loops, and it will just become very complex. For that, we have a very simple command called find, which takes in arguments that I would want you guys to read about and can be used to traverse directories in all possible manners you want. I'll just give you a small example that let's check what is in my root directory. So I have specified that minimum depth of find should be 1, maximum depth should be 1, and I'm only finding, I would say, out of directories and files. I'm just finding files, which is I have defined by minus type D. And if we go, it just lists all the directories in my root folder. Okay, can anyone tell me, let's say I have to list only the files. What would be the part that I would change in this command?
Type.
And what would be the type? Like currently it's D. What do you think would be the type?
F.
Let's see. I don't know. Actually, I don't know, but let's see. Yeah. There is only one file in the root, that is dot file, and yeah, minus f is the correct, like minus type f is correct. What was your name, the person who said the answer?
My name's Satvik.
Yeah, I would really like if you like first tell your name and then give the answer.
Sure.
Okay. So thank you, Satvik, right?
Yep.
Okay. So and then there are like I have put in references by which you can like know more how to use the find command or just in general how to traverse directories. And now let's come to the most interesting part according to me in the assignment. So before this, let's first go to the assignment part. Yeah. So in this assignment, you are required to do things such as using curl to do network calls, getting HTML files, interacting a little bit with headers, not like interacting, but just knowing what are headers. And apart from this, you will be knowing about JSON files. So there is a lot of things which are actually application oriented in your real life. So let's just go step by step. So curl is a tool that is used to do network calls through command line, and it is, if not the most, one of the most powerful command line tools to do networking. And after that we have so sir, shall I explain the assignment or shall I just go through the things that
Right. So I think there are two things that is we can do. So first is that you guys, I mean these two you guys, like you need to understand that we are not going to teach networking. That is totally networking course as a whole course for that. All we are saying is that operating system through shell provides an extremely powerful tool to actually make network calls. You don't need to know how it is doing. Okay, you can just know that, well, you'll just give it some argument with some parameters and then it will return you back the content of a web page, the web page that you specified. Okay, so that is how we are going to view it. We are going to view it as a functionality of the that is provided to you by the operating system without going into how it is exactly working. That will be the prerogative of your networks course. Now that being said, we wanted to also know that what is the magic that you can do, because that is what people ask, like, you know, just get fetch a web page and then parse that web page to basically tell me what is the names of all of your batchmates. I mean, these are the things that people will pay you for even in your jobs, to be honest. So we wanted to give you the taste of that. Now, we are not going to, I mean, we are sure that you can read through the assignment and you will. Like, you don't, if you don't understand anything, ask the mentors, ask us, we would explain. But now, Shibam, I think we can possibly give them a test of what curl can do, just to actually show how powerful it is, so that they will also have a test of what they're going to play around with.
Interesting. So before curl, let's get on to environment variables. So I hope you guys know what are variables, right? So you must have defined them in your programs, but have you ever used variables that you cannot find in your program? Like it is not defined in your program, but still your program is using it. Have any of you encountered any such situation?
The path variable.
Yeah, the path variable. So the path variable is not the path variable, it's called the path environment variable. Right. So basically environment variables are variables that are set into the operating system or the microservice, or like this is something which is flexible because it could be set on the shell level also, which I'll show you right now with an example. So let's just say it is set in a way that is not very apparent, or like that is not defined in your program directly. Now let's see, this example would clear it. So I can show you what are all the environment variables in my shell. So I guess somebody said path, right? Who was the one who said path?
Satvik.
So Satvik, here you can see the path environment variable, right? So this is these are all the environment variables that I have defined, or like that are defined by the system for important purposes of like important functions of the operating system. Now I'll show you one magic. Let's say now I'll show you one example that how can you define environment variables without actually defining them through your system. Okay, so let's say now what do you think will happen? Do you see a change in the environment variables? So basically, why I am telling this is because in your assignments, whenever you need to use environment variables, you can just define them on the go by writing the environment variable before the actual command. So this could be used in many ways. You can write any command here, like anything will run, and it will, whenever it fetches the environment variable, it will use all the environment variables that are present in the system, plus the one you defined before the command. Now, yeah, environment variables part is done.
Is it permanent?
No, it is not permanent. So let me just show you. That was a nice question, actually. I missed that part. So who asked that question? Satvik again.
Abhilash.
Abhilash, nice. I don't want to just hear 2-3 names. Do you see that environment variable now?
No, actually we use some export variable, export command, I guess.
Yeah, so when you use export in itself tells you that it will export the environment variable to your shell. So it will not go to your system, okay, but it will go to your that particular shell session. And then there are commands that can set on your shell level, and then there are commands that can set on your OS level. So those things are there, and you can read about them. I have provided really good reference that if you need to know like anything about environment variables, how to use them, why they are very useful, what are their practical applications in industries, all of that is present in these articles. Now let's get back to next. Yeah, so yeah, as I told, we are not going to talk about networking, but I'll just tell you the terms, and if you are interested, you can definitely know more about them, and I have provided resources. So there's something called REST API, and it has a few methods which are used to interact between client and server. Two of the methods which are important and would be useful in your assignment are GET and POST. GET is used to just request data from the server using some specified parameters. Okay. And POST is used to send data that will change the state of the server in some or the other way and not just get back information. Example would be, let's say there's a server and you want to fetch the name of all the TAs of the course, OS course. So you would just say get and let's say /TAs. It will send you the list of all the TAs. And the next thing is now sir wants to add TAs to the course. What he will do is he'll have a JSON file which has all the name of the TAs and all the details. He'll just post that data to the same endpoint, let's say /TAs on the server. And the server will note since this is a post data, I need to update it, and it will send according response, like the appropriate response code back to server. So if you need to know more about this, like just you can ping me or you can just know there are resources. Headers are basically, I would say, key value pair. Does anyone has any question?
Yeah, so Shivam, this is Saptarshi Ghosh.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So I think you are doing a very good job. But see, since the students have not done, so I think they have just started a network course. So maybe giving them too many terminologies like this would confuse them. So though they have not done a network course, I think everyone has used a browser.
Oh yeah,
So
right.
what are you talking about? Server, client, etc. Like, do you mean something like when we open up a browser, let's say Mozilla or Chrome, and we type in a URL? So do you mean that like what is the client here? What is the server here? What is going on? Can you start from that direction? So it is usually better to start from somewhere which people know. Okay, so maybe start from putting up a simple URL on a browser, and then talking a bit about what is client, what is server, what is even a protocol, why do you need a protocol even? Okay, maybe then come to these things. Okay.
Actually, that skipped my mind. My next sir has already given, advised me to do this, but that skipped my mind. So
Sure, go on. Yeah.
let's go through an example, and I'll show you by browser. So I believe all of you must have used browser. And in the browser, this browser is the client, or my system is the client. And let's request a server, which is example.com. And I don't think this network tab would be visible. Can I zoom this? Is the network tab visible?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. So let's do a network call. So you can see these are the two requests that are sent. And as I told you, this is a GET request. Why? Because this has requested, give me this example.com HTML page that I want to display to the server, which is some machine sitting which has this DNS, that is example.com, which gets resolved to the IP address and everything else, which is basically a machine server. Okay. And yeah, so this was example of a GET request. Now I guess you understand what is the request, what is the client, and what is the server. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, so Shivam, just to build up on that, so that guys, I mean, you don't need to actually remember all these things. Just remember that when you are loading that example.com on your browser, what your browser does, your example.com, that web page, this page itself, right? The file, it is not in your it is not on your machine. You have to get it from somewhere, and that somewhere is the server. And all it is doing, like this network request is doing, just get basically means give me that page, give me that file. That's all it is doing. It is fetching that file, getting that file from somewhere else in the internet. That's what your browser is specially made for, to get files from different parts of the internet, and that is the get request is for. Okay, that's all you need to remember.
Next is we are also going to, there is also some assignment on headers. So I'll explain what are headers. Basically, basically headers are key value pairs that pass on additional information. And let's just go through examples. So there are two types of headers: request, which is sent from the client to the server, that is, which would be sent from this browser to the machine which is going to serve example.com. And when it's vice versa, it is called response headers. So let's just go through one basic request header. So this is an accept language request header. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So accept language just tells that these are the languages which I'm going to accept. And there are headers. Okay, method is also a good header, which just tells that this is the method that I'm requesting for. Similarly, in response, there could be data like, let's say,
just one, I'm sorry to interrupt. So guys, just to actually, before we actually move on, the question here is that in the assignment, we already explained all this stuff. And what Shivam actually mentioned is that the doing curl basically will give you the file. And then there is something called headers, and there's something called cookies, and all these things are there. You will learn it in networks class. But for now, these are just parameters to curl. That's it. It's just a program. Curl is a program. You can send these parameters. So do you guys want to, I would actually, I'm thinking that whether it will be beneficial for you to take a deep breath, take a moment. This is already in the video. So watch the video, and then if you have any questions, as the mentors, they're all very much conversant in all of these things. So let's actually, just take this knowledge, not getting overwhelmed, and then get around with it when you start working on it. This is going to be exciting because this is interesting and useful skills. However, you will learn this by doing rather than learning lectures. That is what I believe. So would you guys be okay if we just, after this primer, we stop here, perhaps mostly? If Shubham has more things, he would anyways post this document. But would it be okay for you if you stop here and let you explore a little bit and then get back to your mentor or to us if you have more questions? Because this is sort of the most of the thing that curl is the last thing that we wanted to teach you, or at least give you the idea for. Or do you want to, the alternative is that, do you want to actually continue learning about response headers and request headers and all these things? Because those are actually getting too much in the weeds of networks, and I'm pretty sure that you are going to learn the networks course. For now, the knowledge that you have, it should be enough for you to do the assignment. That is what I believe. So there's a question to you guys that will that be okay for you to, you can look at the video and whatever you learn, go and explore, do some Google search, look into the assignment and see if you can actually run these things into the terminal itself to learn.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We just don't want to overwhelm you. We know that for some of you or many of you, this might be the new things that you are learning. So the best way to learn is to do. You already know the terms, you already have the knowledge required to do the assignment. You will have questions and we will be there to answer them whenever they arise. Okay?
I'll stop presenting now, sir.
Yeah. And Shubham, please share your this notes. with the students. They would, I'm pretty sure they would appreciate it tremendously. Any questions that you have now? And I have one last announcement. I'll do that after you're done with your questions. Okay, I waited 10 seconds, so let's move on to the announcement. So you say that this shell scripting and something that we want you to teach, this is extremely useful and important. And another thing that happens while writing these codes is that people try to write them into least number of characters or least number of words. You know why? Because many of the times when you are an expert, when you will become an expert in no time, I'm sure. But once you actually do that, you just want to actually open up your terminal and do all these things. You don't want to use your mouse. You don't just keyboard and your terminal. That's it. You are the king of your machine, king and queens of your machine. However, that actually means that you try to minimize the number of characters or number of words that you will type. You know, just do it quickly. So what to actually do this kind of one-liner, what is generally called, to actually keep the competitive spirit alive, what we did is that if you're doing all this assignment correctly, you'll get 90% of the marks. The 10% is reserved for the top teams who are going to do it with the least number of words, white space separated words. That's the competition. Last time, people actually surprised me by doing really smart ways of doing this assignments. Those are different assignments from the last year, but that's the last announcement, that go wild and try to actually come up with smart ways of doing this kind of stuff. You don't need to use any fancy comments and so on. However, you know, it's gonna be a fun experience. I hope it's a little bit like hackathon thrown into your assignment. Yes, we have a raised hand, so please go ahead.
Sir, is this applicable only for this assignment or all the ones to come?
Only for this assignment.
Okay. And one more doubt I had is how are we expected to run the shell script? Should we have shebang in the top of the file, or do we put bash? And
put bash, or you don't need to put shebang. We are going to run it using. So in general, what happens is you need to demo to your instructor on their machine. So they will download your Moodle instruction, they run on their machine, and you will be there to guide them. If something fails, you need to explain them, and then you need to explain the thing, the working, so that we know that you know what you are doing.
yes, sir. So because shebang will add extra characters to the file, that's why.
You don't need shebang. Good question. You don't need shebang. Yes, we have another question.
Oh, so which command interpreter are we required to use? As in bash or ZSH?
What do you use generally? I'm
I
curious.
use ZSH.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I would actually say bash. That actually make a level playing field. ZSH actually have a few extra things that might not be fair to others.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay, looking forward to, as I told that last time, reading the codes were a true pleasure for many of the teams. So I'm really looking forward to what you guys come up with. When you have any doubts, and you will have some, ask your mentors, talk to us, and also don't forget to discuss within the lab discussions channel or whatever shadow WhatsApp group that you guys already created. I hope you did. Thank you. That will be all from me. So Saptarshi, do you want to add anything, or even any of you have any questions? Please go ahead.
I think it's fine for today. Yeah. So quite a bit of information was shared today, but as you said, there's no need to remember everything, or even if it's not, everything is not clear right away, I think it is okay, because you have quite a few days to understand and also talk to mentors and so on.
Okay, that would conclude our session. Thanks a lot for joining, and go and register yourself in Moodle. I'm stopping the recording.